helping small businesses build resilience and well-being. So first and foremost, why on earth are we looking at concepts of resilience and well-being right now? Well, first and foremost, for all of us in small business and business globally, in fact, we've seen a huge shift in the last year in the way we do business and also the way that we look at work. This pandemic that we're currently facing has basically been a catalyst and a massive shift in how we do business. And it's really forcing us to change and pivot the things that we thought around business and around the structure of work. And it's really going to drive forward a new age and a new era of how we conduct ourselves at work. So for a lot of us in small business, we've faced a lot of things like lockdowns, geographic isolation from potentially our target markets, shift to technology that we might not have been comfortable with in the past. So we're facing a lot of challenges and they're coming at us really, really rapidly. So learning how to build resilience into ourselves and into the way we conduct ourselves in business not only helps us to pivot and evolve our business as we grow it, it also helps us to maintain a good level of personal well-being while doing so. So let's dive into actually what resilience and what well-being is. Oh, first and foremost, hi, my name is Alexis. I'm your presenter today. I am a master's in organizational psychology and also a mindfulness practitioner. So my background spans everything from corporate marketing through to local government. I also had a stint at the national media brand Fairfax before leading as a manager in Patagonia, which is a sustainable clothing brand in Canada. So I've sort of been a bit all over the map. But I'm also a small business owner myself. So I know what it's like to be in your shoes. I'm in your shoes and I'm feeling your pain right now as well, which is why I really felt today called to bring some of the information and the knowledge I have to all of us in small business to see how we can't start changing the way we think and do business to hopefully get us where we want to be in business and feeling good about it. So that's just a quick background about me and what I do. So what exactly is resilience? So something that's really interesting and something to be really cognizant of here when we talk about resilience is we're not talking about grit or perseverance. We're not talking about pushing forward for the sake of pushing forward. What we're really talking about here when we talk about resilience is the ability to cope with ups and downs and the ability to overcome and bounce back from challenges. So obviously the pandemic is a really key thing here. How are we able to use something like the pandemic and shift the way we do business, shift the way we look at maybe our products and services and overcome that challenge to still bring our product and our service to market? So resilience and well-being are pretty closely related. Well-being, as defined by the World Health Organization, World Health Organization rather, is our own individual ability to realize and cope with normal stresses. It also helps us maintain productivity, and it also requires us to be able to contribute to the level of our, a certain level to our community. So when we look at these two things combined, what we start to see is that increasing our ability to adapt to new and changing situations, so increasing our individual resilience, actually helps us to create coping mechanisms that help us maintain stress and actually generally improve our personal outlook on life as well, so our well-being. Now, just before I move forward with this here, I'm going to pop a quick poll up. I just want to know, in your experience, guys, how has COVID impacted your business? Who's feeling the effects of COVID right now in their business? So I've just popped a poll up. Pop it in, pop your answer in, and I'll share it with us right away. We can all see the results here. Great. Cool. Has everyone had an opportunity to pop their answer onto that poll really quickly there? Okay, I'm going to share these results with you. So of the small businesses that we have on our Zoom call right now, all of us have been impacted by COVID, essentially. Oh, except one, rather, one excluding has not been affected by COVID. So for about 38% of the group, you're feeling that COVID has affected your business in a negative way. Just one of you has said that COVID has affected your business in a positive way. And the remainder of the group, about half of you are saying both positive and negative impacts. So that's really interesting. And the reason it's interesting is because what I'm going to share now, let me put my screen back up. Sorry, I'm jumping between things here. Whoops. Okay. So what we can start to look at then when something like COVID happens is what we call some of the protective factors, the factors that form resilience that help us to overcome these effects of something like COVID. So I'm going to focus not on all of these. I'm going to focus on about 4 of these today, and I'm going to give you some really key strategies that are really easily implementable and will make a really big impact on your business and the way you conduct your business to help you build some resilience into that. So the first key focus that I want to focus on here is this concept of future focus. And this is the idea of maintaining a concept of where we're heading in our business in the future. So I believe for those of you who have been or in the NEIS program right now, you would have done some goal setting around your business plan at the beginning of this. So you would have set some clear 6-month, 12-month goals for where you want your business to be. So who firstly has found that through this process, through your goals that you set 6 to 12 months, COVID has kind of meant that you've had to pivot or rethink, or maybe you're not achieving some of those goals in the same way that you would want to or set out to right now. So this can be a really difficult thing to manage, but it's also something that we can look at breaking down further to build what's called our efficacy towards reaching our goals. So how clear and how achievable are your business goals? And secondly, then, what are 3 priorities that we can do? So how can we chunk these business goals down that we've set on a 12 and a 6-month basis? How can we chunk these down to a day-to-day level to help us feel like we can just stay on track consistently every single day? So what we know about goals is when we set these really big pie in the sky goals, if we don't chunk them down into something that feels tangible and doable and implementable on a day-to-day basis, we can really destroy our own sense of what's called self-efficacy in achieving them. So if our goals are to sell $1 million worth of products in 12 months time, what do we need to do on a day-to-day basis that build then to that over time? So the more that we can chunk this down, the more that we can create a tangible structure for us every single day to just say, all right, these are the 3 key priorities that I need to do today that are going to move the needle in my business. So if your business is to, what do we have here? Sell lights, mirrors, homewares, Michelle, beautiful. So if you have a key goal that you have for 12 months time, you want to sell 100 of these mirrors and you want to sell them through wholesale or whatever the case is. On a day-to-day basis, how many wholesalers do you need to be reaching out to hit that goal? How many customers need to see your product to get that metric happening? So a way that we can help build our efficacy again is let's break this down. Let's take those pie in the sky goals, let's break them down to 6-month, 3-month goals, and then a day-to-day thing. What are 3 key priorities you can do today to move the needle? Now, for those of us in small business who maybe have felt that this year has really kind of derailed a lot of these goals, we can be feeling really down in the dumps about this. We can be feeling, a bit bummed out that we haven't hit these quarterly goals. So by chunking them down into priorities on a day-by-day basis, it also helps us get a bit of a dopamine hit. So we can actually see tangibly at the end of the day, okay, I have done 3 things that's moving my business in the direction that I need to head in. And that small but incremental step towards achieving our goals is going to give us a really great dopamine hit. So this is actually something that then factors straight into that well-being that I was talking about earlier. If we're feeling good about ourselves and we're building our own efficacy, we're building our own belief in ourselves to reach those goals, it's going to start creating that consistency and going to start creating that momentum that helps us believe that we can actually do it. And this is something I don't know about you guys, but I know for sure when I started my business, it was a great idea. I had this really great idea. I knew what I wanted to do. And it seemed like a really big pie in the sky concept. And I thought, I have no idea how to go from A to B to get this great idea off the ground and actually build a business in what I want to do. So by chunking it down into saying, okay, this is the big idea. This is how it kind of needs to happen in 6 months. And then every single day I need to be emailing 2 clients or presenting my product to 3 wholesalers or whatever the case is. just helps me to feel like we're keeping those wheels on the bus moving. How does that feel like it lands with everyone? Does anyone feel like they have any kind of personal insights from that at all, or feel like maybe there's some area for them to break their goals down further and keep this kind of consistency going on a day-to-day basis? Cool. I'll keep going through, guys. So that's number one, future focus. What are your goals? What can you do today to move the needle? And just choose 3 things. 3 things. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Chunk it down, 3 things. Take them off your list. Celebrate that win. The next thing is taking a look at your emotional well-being. And I noticed earlier, Rachel jumped in here and said that she works with trauma survivors and things like that. So Rachel, this is probably going to be something that you know a lot about, and that is understanding a little bit more about our nervous system and how stress and how triggers can actually affect our nervous system, perhaps sometimes more than we realize. So I'm going to put my share screen just off one more time here, and I have another poll for you guys that I would love to hear about. Let me find it here. So in the last year, as a result of your business, how have you felt your general well-being is going? So I'm going to pop this poll up. Again, it's totally anonymous, but it's just great to share with the group because we feel like we're all, you know, we can all relate. So that poll should be live. If you'd love, I'd love for you to jump on and pop your thoughts into that. Fantastic. Everyone who wants to participate has, I guess. Anyone else want to put their input into that? Great. So guys, here's how we're feeling. Most of us, 81% of us, are feeling like we're managing, but we could be doing better. So you're probably all feeling right now like this COVID thing's going on for a while, right? We're feeling a little bit weary, we're feeling a little bit tired, we're feeling like it's dragging out a little bit. So what can we do then to take a bit of power back and understand how some of the uncertainty and the bigger picture fear that's going on around us is actually playing into the effects on our nervous system? I'm going to jump back into my screen here. Thank you for sharing that, guys. So understanding a little bit more around how our emotional well-being can actually play a part in the effects it has on our business as well. So stress, first and foremost, triggers what's called a sympathetic response in our nervous system. So for those of you that might be feeling stressed quite regularly on a day-to-day basis, whether it's in your business or in your personal life, it's really important to understand stress almost like a cycle. So we become elevated when we're in stress. And to maintain our well-being, what we need to do is bring ourselves back out of that stress. So we need to go from here back to here. Now, I'm not suggesting here that you avoid stress, because stress is a natural part of life. Stress will come up both personally and professionally in our lives, and it's almost unavoidable. However, how we manage our stress is where our power really lies. So big emotions can trigger our nervous system. Now, this can happen really commonly in a small business. I myself can speak from a lot of experience here. When you have that fear around, you know, where your next sale is going to come from, where your next client's going to come from, how this next lockdown is going to affect your small business, whatever the case is, recognizing when we're in a state of stress empowers us to do something about it. But it can quite often be really difficult to do, because when we're feeling triggered is when we start trying to do things. We start trying to compensate for the stress or for the fear that we're feeling. So completing stress cycles, bringing ourselves from a state of elevation back down to a state of calm, is what we're trying to do here. So I've got 3 little strategies here for you, depending on when you notice you're in stress. So first and foremost, and something that I teach to my corporate clients, is that if we're feeling in a state of stress, so right now, if you're feeling stressed, if you're having an interaction or a conflict with another person, it's really important that in those moments, we allow ourselves to take a moment to breathe. So the research tells us that breathing is one of the key ways that we can bring ourselves out of a sympathetic state back into a parasympathetic state, back into a state of calm, a state of rest and digest. So I know that might sound pretty simple, but allowing yourself 5 deep breaths in the moment when you're feeling that stress, you may be feeling the fear or you're feeling the frustration, that's going to go a long way in helping you bring yourself back down to that baseline stress. Now, the second thing to do here is actually to regularly take breaks. And again, I know that this can sound really straightforward, but how many of you actually get up through the day when you've done an hour, 2 hours of work, take yourself for a walk, maybe go to the beach, take some time out to read a book or do something that's not work related and doesn't cause you stress? I would be, yeah, I'm seeing a few heads nodding here. Not many of us, exactly, because we feel like it may not be a productive way forward, right? If we're not doing something, then we're not being productive. But how often do we get ourselves into these states of stress and then these cycles of stress, and then we, go down rabbit holes of things that actually aren't moving us forward? They're just derailing us from the goals and from what we need to be doing. So taking breaks, resetting actually helps us gain clarity and focus, because we cannot think rationally when we're in this feeling of stress. Yeah, Michelle, you feel guilty. Absolutely. Absolutely, me too. But what we know is that the emotional processing part of our brain fires quicker than the prefrontal cortex. And that's the part of our brain that has our rational thinking. So you're going to respond to situations emotionally before your brain catches up and can rationalize that. So taking a break can actually help us say, okay, I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling frustrated, pissed off, whatever the case is. Take a break, walk away, take a breath, then you can actually reset that, and your rational brain is going to kick back in and help you problem solve it. So it can actually help you from derailing yourself. And I know for sure when I go down rabbit holes when I'm stressed, I actually feel more guilty than if I'd taken the break, reset, and refocused. So that's the second one that I want to leave you with there. The third thing here is that for a lot of us that may or may not have had shop fronts or been in offices before now, bookending your day or decompressing at the end of the day, a lot of us have lost. So it was actually a really interesting study done in the last year that although we are now working from home, Australians are now working 1 to 2 hours a week more on average than we did a year ago. So whilst we think we're having more time at home and more time to do other things, what that is actually translating to is more time stuck on our computers doing the work. So bookend your day means decompress at the end of the day and also allow yourself space at the beginning of the day. So as a small business owner, again here, who wakes up and if you know there's an email you forgot to do yesterday, or there might have been a customer inquiry or whatever the case is, you might jump straight onto your computer with a cup of coffee in hand before you've actually started your day. Yeah, I'm seeing some nods again. Me too. Always. I'm not immune to it, but I know it's wrong. And I know that that immediately can elevate my stress in the beginning of the day as well. So try to set some parameters around when is work time and when isn't work time. And at the end of the day, try to allow yourself some time for decompression. So breathing and taking time out actually reduces our cortisol, which is our stress hormone, which is activated when we're in stress. And self-care actually increases our level of dopamine, which is going to help us feel better. So again, this is how these kinds of little habits actually address our well-being as well. Okay, guys, and I know I'm jetting through these, but I'm going to give you my slides and I'm going to give you this replay. So the next thing is flexible thinking. And this can be the hardest for us when we're new business owners. But what I challenge you to do here is consider your business, consider your products, consider your services, and consider maybe other ways you might bring the same idea or the same mission to market. So flexible thinking is critical in building resilience, because what it allows us to do is detach from the ideas we have about the way something should be done. So when we're able to view perhaps our businesses flexibly, or view the scenario that we're in flexibly, it allows us to start changing the way we view it from being rigid, from being only one track mind of doing something, only one way to bring our product, our idea to market, to starting to look at other ways we might be able to service the market or bring our product to market in a different way. So Who remembers going to Blockbuster as a kid and hiring out movies? Who remembers actually going to the video store? Yeah. Does anyone know why Blockbuster no longer exists? Cool. I'm going to tell you a story. So Blockbuster essentially completely lost their market share to Netflix. And the reason they lost their market share to Netflix is because they completely failed to acknowledge the changing market and refused to pivot. So Netflix actually went to Blockbuster before it was launched and said, hey, we have this really great idea for subscription-based online films. We think this is going to be the way of the future. Blockbuster said no. They said no because 2% of their revenue every year they made in late fees. So when you create 2% revenue in late fees in a business that's worth billions of dollars, you can imagine how much revenue they were generating through late fees. So they were looking at the short-term win. They were looking at, well, if we don't have late fees as part of our return system right now, we stand to lose, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars. So they were looking at the short-term win over the long-term gain. So what they failed to recognize is that whether or not they got on board with online movies were going to happen. So they had the choice to either pivot or become obsolete. And now, I don't know if any of you have been to Blockbuster lately, but I haven't been able to find one in about 5 years. So we all know what happened to Blockbuster. So this, I know, is a really grand scale way of looking at your business. But right now, what can you do in your business that still stays true to your personal mission, but might be a bit of a pivot from what you've considered in your initial product? Or maybe it's not a pivot on your product or service, but it might be a pivot in the way that you bring that to market. So my business, I work as basically presenting organizational psychology information and workshops to organizations. My initial business was in-person consulting. So I used to deliver in-person interventions and consulting to organizations. I would design them based on tailored solutions that organizations would highlight through a series of surveys and things like that to understand what was going on in their business. Obviously, since COVID's hit, I am locked down. So without pivoting my business, I would no longer be able to serve any of my clients. So in the last 12 months, I've shifted from being an in-person consultant to being an online consultant. I actually then designed an 8-week online course. And I realized very quickly that there was more demand for short courses. So in the last 12 months, I've had to pivot my business essentially 4 different times, from being an in-person consultant to an online consultant to designing long form courses to now short form, cheaper and very flexible courses. So what is there, or what does your product and service offer that could be changed or pivoted in a certain way? And what's really important to consider here, and these 3 points that I have, is know what's in your control. So right now, what we know for all of us is that the pandemic and these lockdowns or whatever it is that may be affecting your business is completely out of your control. So what's in your control is how you then choose to look at your business and how you then pivot and how you get that product or service to market. So number 2, find different ways to get the same product to market. So I know a lot of cafes and things like that in town here. So really easy example, they can no longer have eat-in customers right now. So all of a sudden they're all doing door-to-door delivery or takeaway. So that might be something that might be relevant to your business. Well, thirdly, pivot your product to meet the same market need, but differently. So what is your mission and what are you trying to bring to the market? And is there a different way that you can meet that market's need, but with a slightly different product? How does that feel for some of you guys? It's a lot of thinking. And the one thing to be conscious of when you're starting a business is don't be afraid to iterate your product. So don't be afraid to change your product early and change it nimbly and quickly. The more information you can gain from what your market needs, the quicker you can make changes and the quicker you can actually meet that market demand. So if you're selling a product and very quickly you're getting customer feedback that they prefer it this way or they prefer it that way, or maybe it's too expensive or whatever the case is, onboard that as quickly as you can and try and find a way that you can adapt that into the way that you deliver your product and service quickly. So that's my number 3. Let's look at flexible thinking and let's see how we can build resilience around keeping our business relevant by pivoting the way we look at our product or service. So the last one I'm going to touch on today is relationships. And this for us right now is feeling really, really difficult. I don't know about you guys, but I'm separated from family. I'm separated from friends. I'm a sole trader. So I'm out here at my home office all day grinding alone. And it can feel pretty damn lonely. I will say that for sure. So something that we need innately as human beings is positive relationships in our lives and a sense of belonging. So as a small business, this can be even more critical because we are standing out there alone quite often. If we are sole traders, there's no one for us to bounce ideas off. There's no one for us to get feedback from. So how can you start looking at getting the right people in your corner to support you on your business growth? So getting a network of people around you is really important here. So the first thing that I find is really important is to link in with other people in your shoes. So we're in a session now with all people that are small business owners, establishing their business, starting up their business. So this is a great position to be in because we all know what it's like to be in this position. We know what it's like to want to build resilience and well-being into our community and into our business. So this is a good place to start. You're surrounded by like-minded people in the same scenario. Creating some network around that and some community around that is really going to help you to feel supported. The second thing that's really important to consider here is get yourself a mentor who's been in your shoes. So who has a product or service? And I know when I first started my business, one of my sounding boards was my mom. My mom has no experience in organizational psychology, no experience in mindfulness, no experience in the business world whatsoever. So how good of a mentor is that for feedback, right? Find someone who's been in your shoes and who's built a business, either in your shoes or in a product or service similar. They're going to be the best person for you to get advice off. Now, advice is going to save you a lot of headache. Don't try and do everything yourself. Don't try and guess everything yourself. The information is out there. It exists. You just need to tap into the people that can help you, and they're going to save you a whole lot of headache and heartache by doing things right the first time and getting that information from people who have been in your shoes. So lastly here, the major thing to consider is getting someone who can give you the tough feedback and to keep you accountable. So we can become really attached to our business idea, to the way that our business looks, and it can feel really difficult for us to onboard information from others. But getting the tough feedback and being able to change our product, change our service, change our marketing, change our website, whatever it is, the feedback is going to help your business grow. It's going to help your business get relevant, and it's going to help you actually meet your market need. So don't be afraid of getting tough feedback, and get someone in your corner who can give you that feedback and who can hold you accountable. Some great options for this might be people like business coaches, business advisors, mentors, any kind of inner work coach, things like that. So someone who's going to help you keep on track and keep you accountable. So that relationships are a really, really key thing to consider here when we're looking at building resilience and well-being, because our connection to others actually boosts our serotonin levels. So it helps us feel connected. It helps us feel like we have a support network, and it's vitally critical as human beings that we have good relationships around us, and especially in business. So I just wanted to give you guys a few more resources that I felt would be beneficial for you here. Firstly, if you would like to try any meditations, also goal-setting meditations, goal-setting visualizations, and I also have a meditation on Insight Timer that is around regaining control in your life. So it helps you to understand what's called the locus of control. So the things that are within your control and the things that aren't, and it really helps you to focus in on that. If you haven't heard of the Insight Timer app before, it's completely free. It's an iPhone app or an Android app, and it basically has millions of meditations and other, I guess, free concepts like that from all over the world. So if you jump on that, search me, I have 5 or 6 meditations on there for free. Secondly, for those of you who haven't heard of it, NEIS participants are eligible for Business Connect. So these are advisory sessions that are free for your business for the first 4 hours, I think, and then they're $25 thereafter. So you can connect with financial advisors, you can connect with creative advisors, marketing advisors, sales advisors. This is a really good way of getting someone in your corner here. So when we talk about relationships, if you are needing help with strategy, whatever the case is, this is a fantastic opportunity for free to your business to get someone in your corner. In terms of networking, if you're in the Northern Rivers zone here, yeah, I can see Michelle laughing. Networking is non-existent right now in person. However, I know the Sourdough Business Pathways offer business networking, and also there's a women's hub. And being that they're all virtual events right now, you can join them from anywhere. So that's definitely something to look into. I have a free webinar actually on managing personal burnout. So if this is something you feel like you're experiencing, now burnout is that prolonged stress. So when we've been in a stress cycle for a really long time, we're feeling knackered, we're feeling like we're not getting anywhere, we're just exhausted all the time, stressed all the time. If you're feeling like you're in burnout, please jump onto that free webinar on my YouTube channel. I speak to a specialist out of Boston in the United States who's an expert on this, and she gives some fantastic advice in how to manage that. Mental health resources, guys, super important right now. If you are feeling like you need some mental health support, serious mental health support, Beyond Blue has some fantastic resources, especially around depression. Online counseling, and this is a favorite of mine, the BetterHelp app. This will connect you with counselors all over the world. I love this app because it's really affordable. So if you are a small business, you can actually get counseling for 3 months for something like only $300. I found a beautiful counselor that I worked with through there. She was a business specific counselor. She was amazing. So I couldn't recommend that app enough. And also, if you want some more one-to-one support with your things, maybe like procrastination, some of those things that are holding you back from actually pushing through those barriers and getting your business to the next level, check out my website. I do a 5-week one-to-one coaching there to help you sort of bust through some of those barriers and overcome them. So guys, I've thrown a lot of information at you here, but I'm conscious that you're all very busy business owners, establishing your businesses, starting up your businesses, scaling up your businesses. So I hope this has been beneficial to you. I hope you have learned something new today. If you would like to connect with me further, I'm going to pop these slides into the chat for you right now. All of these are links and you'll have that resource to come back to whenever you want.